Good afternoon. My name is Tony, and I want to share with you some of the latest information regarding Hurricane Irma as of the 5 p.m. update from the Hurricane Center. As you know, Hurricane Irma became a major hurricane after forming a couple of days ago around the Cape Verde Islands and headed westward, or made its journey westward across the Caribbean. It's currently winds are at currently 130 miles an hour, as you can see, with higher gusts to 160. Movement is now west at 13 miles an hour. Earlier today, it made a jog slightly to the south, and now it's moving due west toward the Lesser Antilles Islands of the Caribbean. As of today, Monday, sorry, 6:10 p.m. Eastern time. So that puts it about 490 miles east of the Leeward Islands. Pressure's at 944 millibars. That's dropped during the day slightly, and that made it a Category 4. As you remember earlier today, it was a Category 3, but today it's a Category 4, which makes it a major hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson scale, which goes from 1 to 5, as you know. So we have hurricane warnings now posted for some of the Lesser Antilles here, such as Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Martin Islands. And then we have tropical hurricane watch in effect, excuse me, for the outlying areas here of Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, British Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, etc. They're under hurricane watch. As long as some of our friends to the south here, some of the islands definitely to the south here is Dominica, Barbados, and those at Saba, St. Eustatius, those islands down there further south, they're under hurricane watch and tropical storm watch as appropriate here. As you can see, the forecast iPath does have it Irma staying offshore, just to the east, offshore, maybe by margin of say 60 to 70, 80 nautical miles offshore to the east of the major islands, at least the core of the hurricane. Now, you must remember with this system as it's moving due west and it's going to make that turn to the northwest, as the Hurricane Center expects it to make that turn later on tomorrow, is that you must explain that the hurricane force winds that we're saying, the 130-mile-an-hour winds that we're seeing here, it's located in a fine radius here. As you can see, the red is located here. This is only about a 35-mile radius from the eye that we're seeing those winds at 130 miles an hour with gusts to 160. Everywhere else around that, from that point out, it's just tropical storm force winds, and those winds, of course, range from 39 to 73 miles an hour. So we should keep that in mind as far as the coastal thing here now. For the islands tonight and tomorrow, they will see a water level rise, a surge anywhere between the order of 3 to 7 feet in water level rise, up to 10 feet where it's near to the east of the eye, where some of these islands here, some of these smaller islands, such as some of the ones east of the British Virgin Islands and Montserrat, we'll see a little bit of a storm surge as the system Irma passes just to the northeast. The enhanced satellite, infrared satellite, shows us here these darker reds, and it means the higher, the colder the cloud tops. The colder the cloud tops, the more the system is able to breathe and exhaust, like an exhaust. It sucks in that warm, moist air off the Atlantic, and it funnels up at the highest atmosphere of the atmosphere, 50,000, 60,000 feet. It breathes out above the eye of the storm, and that exhales that cold air, like just like your car exhales carbon dioxide and takes in that fiery mixture of gasoline and spark to combustible to keep you moving. That's a hurricane keeps a hurricane moving. It's the same way, my friends. So you can see the eye here. The eye was clouded over. It's a little more visible. As we head toward nighttime hours, expect the satellite picture to become a little more ragged because the eye is going through the eye wall replacement cycle. It basically means the eye reforms itself when it's at this intensity, category 3 or above. The eye forms and reforms itself to make itself more comfortable within its surroundings, the environment that it's in. We expect continuing strengthening of this thing. Probably winds to get up to 140. Don't be surprised, 145, maybe 150. But we don't expect it to become a Category 5 anytime soon. Like I said, this is moving north northwest right now. As far as the impacts to the U.S., my friends, there's a couple of features here that could be potentially. There's a Bermuda High that's staring at. That's why it's moving along, but it's moving along the southern periphery of the Bermuda High, which flows in this direction, my friends. And so there's a squeeze play happening, but there's also a front coming across a cold front coming across up here. So depending on, there's a squeeze plate in the middle here for Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia. The other option is if the front slows down and stalls out up here, it continues to head west into the Gulf and actually make landfall over toward Mississippi and Louisiana coastal line. That's a lot of things that the computer model is not seeing right now, but that is a possibility that the storm can continue to miss Florida, head west all the way into the Gulf, and continue to make landfall up here in the Mississippi, Louisiana coastline as well as a Cat 2 or 3, maybe even 4, depending on the environmental conditions at that time once we get past next week. In any event, landfall in Florida or any of the continental United States is way out. We're talking about Monday, next month, this coming Monday, Sunday night into Monday before any of this thing reaches land, because so far it's about a good 1,800 to 2,000 miles out from any landfall for in terms of the United States if it holds together to that part. If it takes a more of a westerly jog through this mountains here, if it, Dominican Republic and Haiti and Cuba, that will slightly weaken the system. It'll be down to a category 2, maybe even category 1 if it goes straight across the mountains of Cuba like that, because it came out to Cuba up with an excess of 10, 12,000 feet. That would just tear this armor apart. And I didn't have to worry about what's left of it, what's left of it to reemerge out here into the Florida Straits and Gulf of Mexico, my friends. Okay, so that's just a little update of Hurricane Irma. There'll be more here, but I just want to give you the latest coordinates here and positions here of the system. It's moving west at 13 miles an hour. Pressure's at 944 millibars. And we just have to continue to monitor it. I would say by Thursday we'll have a better handle on where the system is going and how much is this Bermuda high. Is it going to weaken? Or how much is the front going to weaken before we can make any judgment calls about any effects to the continental United States, my friends. But for those in the islands, those of you if you are in Puerto Rico, if you're in Virgin Islands, British Virgin Islands, Tortola, if you are in Montserrat, Saba, St. Eustatius, St. Thomas, St. Croix. I would say prepare to batten down the hatches. You will have a rough night tomorrow and into the morning. And then, it depends. You may not see hurricane force winds, but you will see tropical storm force winds to hurricane gusts, and you may see storm surge, and you may see some brief rain. But the good news is this system is moving fast. It's moving west at 13 miles an hour. It's not going to be stalling out or lingering or anything like that because it's being stirred by very strong winds and very strong steering power right now. So we don't have to worry about that. So we'll come back with another update in a few hours, maybe even tomorrow on Thursday. I'll come back with another update. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments for me, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. Okay, have a great night, and we'll talk to you later.